All right, Shalom, Yashala. Giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Rakakadash. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders, great millstone, more salutations to the brothers teaching the word for the hopeful elect, soon to be the elect, most high will. Said he's showing the time for the elect's sake. It's going to be sooner than later. To the contrite spirits returning back to the most high blessings. You know, another little testimony I ran into. Well, I didn't run into her. I was at the gas station, and Eve pulled up, and she asked for help. And I'm gonna call this. I didn't want to help Eve, but I did. But it was she rolled up and she was crying, saying, "Could you help me with some gas?" I was pumping gas at the time. I had 10 minutes to get to work. Basically 6 minutes from the job. So I was like, I gotta hurry up and get to the job. And I was like, nah, I'm late for work, so I don't have time. Now usually I pay for gas with my card, but this time I paid cash. So I already had like $8 and change sitting in my pocket. So she asked again, could you please help me? It was a young Eve. She looked like she was about 22, real young Eve. And I was like, nah, I gotta go. She's like, my boyfriend just beat me up. And so I was like, I saw the sincerity in their eyes, because we love our people, but, our people are worldly, and our people are, and I don't know her state. I don't know, but she looks sincere, and I'm pretty good at reading spirits. And I say that humbly, Most High will, that's the case, for all of us. But so, with the change being in my pocket, I was like, yeah, let me give her $5. So I gave her $5. And after that, she said, well, could you go in there and pay for me? I was like, nah, you know what I'm saying? I got to get to work. I don't have time for that. But I was thinking in my head, like, damn, that woman's crazy. I ain't going to go in there and pay. You know what I'm saying? I helped you out, but to go over there and go inside and pay for you too, hell no. That was going on in my head. So, I was still pumping gas. And then she, parked by the pump. And she got out and I saw her limping. And, I kind of saw her eyes too, like one eye was kind of, it wasn't real bad, but you could tell that she got hit or something. I don't know if it was swollen or whatever. But when she got out the car, she was limping. And I think she was bleeding from her leg. Now, it wasn't bad. It wasn't, if anything, she could have called 911. Why, but maybe she saw a brother, supposedly saw a brother and said, oh, he'll help me. Which, I denied helping her 2 times until, but, you women out there, nobody's going to be helping you. You know what I'm saying? That was just a quick thing. It wasn't that much money I gave her. But, I read her spirit and it didn't say dangerous, but who knows this? I didn't know this woman, and that's what it come down to. I mean, back then, it was more, Jake help each other. He wasn't really on no wicked ass shit unless he really needed money. And I'm not calling it wicked like that because, Jake can change. Jake, Most High does forgive Jake if he's sincere to return back to getting his life right, turning back to the Most High. Or you could just be a common man and just get your life right. Quit drugs, quit whatever you into. Drugs is a common thing among Jake. That's why I said that. But no telling who she was. She probably been one of those ones that is all in a man's face. She probably committed adultery. Who knows if that it was the case? Who knows why he did that? Back then, when a woman did something or she got beat up or slapped or by a man and she told her mother or grandmother, the old school grandmother and mother and grandmother would say, well, what did you do? So, you know, but now, the tables have turned. It's pretty much as far as how society view those things concerning domestic violence and so forth. You know, isn't it doesn't but today it still doesn't always work in a woman's favor. But the so-called black man has been the target in this world ever since the ships came set sail over here. So we're not surprised about that. But a man could have been coming up the street. You could be easily involved with something just by communicating with somebody. Like I said, and then, it wasn't that bad back then. Sisters were more natural. They were more heartfelt. Even the men in a way, as far as, how they looked at a brother. We have a term, Jake had a term that's not really used today, especially like it was back then. Hey, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, you got rap, with that term in it. You don't hear that really today. The world has wax cold, even among Israel. So, it's just to be always circumspect. And I did look around. I was like, and I, waited a little second, and I peeped in the car. Nobody was in the car with her, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna be out as soon as I give her this $5. I'm out because I was already almost finished with the pump. So I was like, yeah, $5. But wasn't on no, I'm wasn't on no bougie ass shit. It was just like, if you ain't with Yahweh Yahushai, you're gonna be on the other side, man. You're gonna be of the world. Even in the time of Jacob's trouble, man. Now, we always talk about that scripture, Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 4:1, 7 women to 1 man, which is a completion of women. And, saying we will eat our own bread as long as we call by thy name, basically clinging to the men of the Lord. And that's the sincere women, But a lot of these women talk shit. They're not sincere. They talk shit until they get hit. They commit adultery. It's how it says a wicked woman wipeth her mouth as she done no wickedness. Oh, we don't know who these people are a lot of times. We can read spirits, and we can examine, and we can, Most High gave us the knowledge, wisdom, understanding to observe things and examine the matter and see what the thing is. But a lot of these women are not sincere. A lot of these women, we know the makeup of these women, That's why apostles say, stay the hell away from these women, especially the black women, Especially now, also too, I observed that she didn't look like no ratchet woman, with the blonde wig or the pink wig, You know, she just looked like a regular, a natural Eve. I think she even had a natural hair. I watched that video Apostle Gabar did about how women used to be natural, more natural back then, no tattoos. I didn't see no tattoos, nothing like that. So, I just peeped her whole aura, and it's saying like, well, she was sincere. But, you know, in a situation of domestic violence, and a woman dealing with her problems with her man, because that's supposed to be her man. I mean, they supposed to be, you lie down with a man that's your husband. That's supposed to be between those two people, you know, um, you know, and if they had the supervision under the father, and then under the protocol of how it's supposed to be, which we understand. Jake is all messed up, man. I mean, we're under the curses, so our people, they're under the curse. They're not in their right mind. They didn't grow up right. They weren't taught right. So we understand that, But the truth is out there, and the whole world knows about it. So it'll be very surprising to run into somebody that hasn't heard the truth and don't know the truth. So, it says in the scriptures, even with Yahweh Shai, it says he prayed not for the world. John 17:9, I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me, for they are thine. So it's an elect. Everybody else is in the world, even these Israelites that are getting caught up in doing unrighteous acts that have not a sincerity for the really returning back to the Most High, and believing these scriptures, and believing the return of the Son of God, and believing the prophecies, and believing the prophets, believing the holy men that were set up to prophesy about things coming. So, if you're on the other side, like I said, it's only two sides of the coin. You're on the one side. You're either on one side of the fence or the other. It's no lukewarm. We know, it's mentioned in the scripture, lukewarm. If you lukewarm, Most High spew you out. He'd rather you be cold or hot. And that's what our people do. Like, even with these situations that come about, when they deal with each other, and then they, get into these, what do you call it, problems, and then they want to call out, for God, when it comes to trouble with them, and I'm not putting myself in a place. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, you can't be a hypocrite. You can't go out there and talk shit. I don't need a man. F a man. What can a man do to me? And then the first man you see, you ask for help because of a personal situation. You'll have a woman to say, well, he's crazy. Well, these are the same dudes you have children with. These are the same dudes that you saw at the club and you thought he was handsome and you opened your legs. Same dudes that you brag to your girlfriends about, oh yeah, he's handsome. Girl, I think I found my one. And these are the same men that you've been in a relationship with for years, whether it be 2, 3. Usually that's how long it takes relationship lasts today. Probably a short amount of time than that, maybe 6 months now, or as soon as the baby drops. So, for a woman in this world, especially these times coming up, to be out there, prideful, talking shit, not, examining herself, holding no accountability, and to just go out there and, basically live wilding out. she don't, she doesn't really consider, what's really going on and what state the world is really in. Not only with her own problems at home, not only with a domestic situation, but the whole world, overall, especially in America. So, if you're not a sincere woman and you're not humble, it's gonna be hard for you to get help when this shit goes down, because this shit is going down. Jacob's trouble. You can term it whatever you want to, but it's going down. Civil war, martial law, chaos in the streets. The world heart of many waxing cold. Love of many waxing cold. That's in the scriptures. So when you say, well, ain't nobody showed the love, nobody came to my aid, there's a good reason for that. And it's called prophecy, it's in the scriptures. It's called, you've been talking shit all this time, forever, saying that you're independent, need nobody. F men in general. And then come to a point where you get your last end after being too late. Because especially these women, a lot of these women have a reputation for that. These platforms that they stand on, as far as IG and all those, TikTok, whatever it is, a lot of ways how they make their money today. When that fails, when it goes out, it's like that, a Ghostbusters song, who you gonna call, So, yeah. And that was just, she's gonna have to still continue to deal with that situation. If I saw her again at that same gas station, I wouldn't even go to that gas station no more. If I saw her, asking somebody else for money, I was like, damn, go to that same woman, I wouldn't even go to that guy. I was like, damn, let me, avoid this one. And it's kind of, it's sad a little bit. I mean, you see our people, even when our people were on drugs, some people are still on drugs, and then you outside looking in, you be like, man, it's like a sad movie and shit. Like, damn, nobody can fix that person's mind to get off drugs. Nobody can fix that person's mind to get out of harlotry. You know what I'm saying? Or, involved in heavy lust in the world. Nobody can, get into the mind of that person. And sometimes they're called victims, but Jake know what he's doing, man. And these are the kind of women, a lot of times, that go right back to that man. So you can't be no Captain Save-A-Ho with these women. You can't look for these women to be, honest or sincere in a way to where they keep that, sincerity. And, they live a lifestyle like that, to where they constantly in trouble, and you can't help nobody like that. And I'm not saying that's what this woman's case was, because I don't know it, but With a lot of women, that is the case. And then they'll try to say, well, you know, yeah, niggas don't care about nobody. They don't care about their kids. Nobody, no real man's gonna want to stay at home with a woman, out of order woman. I don't care if their kids involved. If he got a child, that's his own children. No real man is gonna want to stay around that bullshit. So women got to start looking in the mirror and examining themselves, which is never the case. So, yeah, you know, if you're worldly, you're not going to be prayed for or protected, you know. And it says, Howard, his name is a strong tower. He that runs into it is safe. They don't believe in Yahweh. They're not going to call out for Yahweh or Yahweh Shai. They're going to be calling out. Yeah, like I said, she could have called 911. They do that all the time. Call the cops. Tell them you know what I'm saying? Why get a man involved if you don't even know? And get anybody involved. You know how they used to do. They call their uncle, cousin, brother, pops if he's still alive, because your mother done drove him crazy. But they're losing that touch. They're losing that, and that's because of the Most High. It's showing them that, yeah, this is what times we're really living in, where nobody gives a damn, and that's how it's going to be. Especially if you're outside of his circle, his church, his ministry. So, because when Jake don't think, you're not supposed to be in the line in your house. So when a lot of these men are killing these Jake women, man. They're killing the black women. This one woman, she she's mentioned in the comments that, man, it's getting harder to leave a relationship. Because, you just can't leave a relationship anymore. They're killing women. And sometimes it happens vice versa. But, a lot of times when a man does it, it's for sure because he had the strength to do it, But, and it's not a woman's nature to shoot a gun, to have a gun, to carry that much power. She's into money. She's into being a succubus, I know some women have done that, or they'll do it by other means, killing their husband, whatever, poisoning them or whatever. But they're really not prone to, being the anchor of violence when it comes to power. That's usually the man. So when you have a rapist in the community, no matter how you done seen your woman talk shit and beat up a few women and talk shit to you. I'm talking about in a worldly sense, and talking about she's a boss bitch. But when there's a rapist on the loose, they like, oh, I gotta hurry up and get to my car. And like, this is the same woman that's been talking shit like crazy. So then they still had that little girl instinct of, looking at the world as a monster or possibly their own man as a monster when it comes to the power they see. And it says in the scriptures, hey, our people should be willing and dare of thy power, even when our women see it, they're gonna be like, oh, that's where I should be. That's where the strength is. Even it reminds me of the woman that if I could just touch the hem of his garment, talking about Yahweh Shai, and his virtue left him. That's something that somebody would say to a star. A celebrity, like, man, if I could just touch his, So imagine the men of the Lord, in that day, that a lot of women, they're not going to get the help. They're going to be caught up in other situations to where they're not even going to get to that point where they're able to be under the man of the Lord. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot late for a lot of women, and some of them is going to be too late, a little too late, You can't be like, well, yeah, I don't know, and then when it comes, like, oh, nah, for sure, no, nah, you got to know right now. You got to get yourself straight right now. You got to examine yourself right now. It says, return to the Most High while He is near. Anyway, it's just a little something, and I'm going to do more of these, Most High willing, blackout testimonies, meaning, you see the screen of the phone, it's just, I'm not going to, go to the blue letter etymology or, show anything on screen, to point things out. I'm going to just, it's little, testimony that I've, you experience something at work or you experience something, you could do a video about it, That's why apostles say it's always something to talk about, to do a video about. So that's an encouragement, because you got to get back in, you got to get back in the fight, when you find yourself, man, I got to get on these videos, man, You got to, whether it's work, whether it's, been visiting a woman too much, you be like, no, I got to get back focused, man. I got to get on my shit, Because this is a fight, this is a war, and we're definitely in it. Anyway, hopefully it's edifying to the next video. Shalom.